Today is Wednesday, September the 16th. Had to think about that for a second. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this is my daily thought. My daily thought is I'm losing my mind. It's what's going on. I was rushing. Okay, so if you're listening to this show or watching this show for the first time, I usually talk about what's going on and then I land into what my daily thought is about. Quick housekeeping. My mind is all over the place, and because I'm trying to keep three trains of thought right now. All right. KIRWKC.com is the main podcasting platform. Feel free to go and listen there. Obviously, this podcast is on several podcasting platforms, but that one is the main one. If you're watching on YouTube Daily Motion, feel free to click the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the notification bell as well as the subscribe button. That way you will know when I upload new episodes. My daily thought, as I have mentioned before, is a supplement to Keeping It Real with KC, which is a weekend show. All right. Now I can tell you why I'm sounding like a crazy person right now. All right. So I was working on something for a client and for my regular job. And I was attempting to reinvent the wheel when everything was already prepared for me. All I had to do was figure out which one to select from. With the Excel sheet, I was about to build the Excel sheet from scratch and do that. And then something said, check this a little bit closer. And I did, because we redid our system and I don't usually use the new system. So I'm ready to build a whole new Excel sheet from scratch. But luckily, my intuition, my little voice, if you have a little voice that says something, listen. It doesn't hurt to just check out what your little voice inside is saying. Listen, please. And my little voice said, why don't you go to this part and see what's happening? And sure enough, everything was there. And then I had to figure out which one to select to send to the client. And hopefully I sent the right one, but I confirmed with the accounting department, and I'm confident that the information they gave me was correct and that it will match the information in the Excel spreadsheet that was sent from the new system, and that it was the information that the client wanted, and hopefully everyone will live happily ever after on that. All right. And because of that, I spent a little bit of extra time afterwards outside of my regular business hours working, and that threw me behind, and I need to boil my chicken. And I usually put my pot on 15 minutes before I get ready to clock out, because it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to come to a boil, because I like to drop the chicken in it while it's boiling. I don't drop it in there and then let it boil. I don't do it like that. I let it boil first, and then I drop the chicken in there, and then I let it boil for an hour and 15 minutes, because I plan on making a salad, because I need more salads. And especially since I found out that one of these reasons I might be having all these sinus issues is because my lymph nodes might be acting up. Leafy greens and avocado, which I plan on doing a good bit of avocado, not too much, because if you do too much avocado, it can mess up your kidneys. So don't eat a whole lot of avocado if you're an avocado lover in one day. But I plan on doing a salad with the chicken and the avocado and the kale and all of this other stuff. So it just threw me behind schedule with boiling the chicken. But my pot is going, and if I hear it really boiling in a minute, I might get up for just 2 seconds and go do that. But I'm going to try to run through this pretty quickly. And I'm already 5 minutes in, and this is my life. is so entertaining. Kale, chicken, and Excel spreadsheets. I'm living the life. Do you hear the sarcasm? But as I said yesterday, if you listen to my show on My Daily Thought, boring isn't a bad thing. All right, so let me get into this right quick. Everyone grieves differently. Because I noticed that, and I meant to talk about this on the Daily Thought sooner, but I didn't get to it. And I meant to. I really meant to. And I know that it was something that was brought up. I'm not going to say what, because the reason it was brought up was something that I said I was only going to discuss it once, and that was it. And I forgot what episode that was, but I said, this is the only time I'm bringing this up, and I'm not going to bring it up again. As for related to a certain individual with the incident that happened not too long ago. So, yeah, I'm that. And someone was criticized because they didn't come out right away and say something in regards to the whole incident that happened. Then, my thought then was, people grieve differently. And I meant to do this sooner, but every time a different thought would come up, and obviously I ended up doing it. And that's what happens. I have a lot of thoughts to come up, and then I have to do what I feel is the more pressing thought for that day when I record. And this one is the one that takes center stage, which, by the way, side note, if you haven't seen the movie Center Stage, awesome movie. All right. First of all, I don't like going to funerals. And I know people who don't like going to funerals. I'm not a funeral person. The last funeral, I guess, or wake or what have you, that I went to, I think that was, sheesh. I want to say, when was that? Oh my goodness. That had to be almost 20 years ago, I think. I don't think I've been in a church since then for a wake or a funeral. I don't. Because it was when a friend had passed away in North Carolina. And I went up for that. And that was a sad situation. And I still remember him to this day. He was a good person. He was a good person. Had a big heart. Very blunt. A true Aries. Aries are some of the nicest, meanest people you'll ever deal with. They have huge hearts, but they are blunt as hell. But I appreciate bluntness because at least you don't have to guess where you stand with them. And I respect that. So, you'll get your feelings hurt, but at least you know where you stand. That was that one. When my granny and my nanny died, it was two different things. My granny, for those of you who may be following later in the episodes of this particular show, is my dad's mother, and my nanny is my mother's mother. So, and this is something that also plays a role in grieving. Everything is on a case-by-case basis. When my nanny died, I wasn't bothered. I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset. I wasn't even sad, to be honest. I was content. And the reason I was is because A, I knew she wasn't suffering anymore. And B, my mother, which some of you already know through watching or listening to the show, my mother had my brother and I when she was young. She had my brother when she was 17 and me when she was 23. So we spent most of our lives with our grandparents. It's not like now where people are having children at a later age and they, by the time a child turns 10 or 11, their grandparents may already be gone. I was fortunate enough, and I'm thankful for that. I give thanks to the universe for that, where I actually not only got to spend time with my grandparents, I got to spend time with my great grandparents as well. And which was crazy, to think about that now. And I'm not talking about where 10, 11. My dad's grandparents, grandpa and grandma, they didn't pass away until I was out of high school. So I spent all of my teenage years with my grandparents, with my great grandparents, which was an amazing thing. My nanny, I spent so much time with her that I knew, and I'm pretty sure I brought this up in another show, I knew I didn't take it for granted because I knew she was older. And I also knew I enjoyed all of the moments. Anytime I spent with my nanny, I just enjoyed the moments. I took it in. Because, and it was, which I mentioned this too, her birthday and my birthday are a day apart. She was June 25th, I'm June 26th. So that in itself, being so close with birthdays, and I'll never forget when she turned 75, for my birthday, I did this when I lived in a different apartment when I was on the East Coast. I did this big party because I wanted to do a big thing, not just for me, but for her because she was turning 75. So I got this huge birthday cake, 75 birthday cake. I believe it was a chocolate cake. Pretty sure it was chocolate. And then I got me a Powerpuff Girl strawberry cake and a Lion King cake. So I had 3 cakes that I got, and it was awesome. And I had this long table in my apartment that I had. I'll never forget where I got it from. I got it from Home Depot, which Home Depot was selling furniture. I think they still sell furniture, possibly. But it was a beautiful, beautiful table. Long, long, long. I think like maybe 10 to 14 people were seated at the table because, like I said, it was really long. And I did that. I enjoyed it. Had that moment with her. And had other moments with her where she needed me to take her somewhere, to go pick up something or do this or do that, because we didn't live that far from each other. And she didn't drive. She never got a driver's license. So I would spend time with her doing that. And also because I went to school near her house, sometimes I would just go to her house. I would either take the bus or either if I was driving at the time when I was in high school, I would drive over there and hang out for a little while. Or on Sunday, because she would always cook, I'd go over to her house and eat. And my mother, my father, sometimes my father would come in. It would all depend on how everybody's coordinating that day. We'd go over there and hang out. And my grandfather, my papa, he'd be doing his thing, sitting in the chair, fussing at the TV and all that other stuff. But I would spend time with her. I spent a lot of time with her. So when she passed away, I didn't feel like I lost anything. So while other people were sad or mad or whatever emotions they were wrapped up in, because obviously my mother, she was hurt because it was her mother. For me, I wasn't hurt from that death because I felt like I got more time than I should have been allowed, if you see what I'm saying. Almost like they say you're on borrowed time. That's kind of how I felt. Like I got more time with her than I was allowed. And all the time I got with her was amazing. And of course I miss her, obviously. You're always going to miss, well, hold on. Caveat. Let me back that right on up. You're not going to miss everybody that dies in your family. I know that it may not sound positive and all lovey-feely and rainbows and sprinkles and everything else, but I'm just keeping it 100. You're not going to miss everybody in your family. But for those that you love, you are going to miss them regardless of what the situation is. Regardless of if you're mad, if you accept it, if you're in denial, if you're adjusting, whatever the phases of grief, which I don't know them off the top of my head because I never really paid attention to all that, whatever phases of grief that you are going through, if you truly love someone, you're going to miss them. You're going to think about them. But for me, for that particular death, I didn't feel like I lost anything because the time, the moments and the time, so much was given to me. It's almost like, even though mathematically this isn't possible, it's almost like I was given 140% and they only took away 25% of that, or to take out percentages. It's almost like I was given $2 and they only took away 25 cents. I still have $1.75. You know, I don't feel like a lot was taken from me. The only thing that was taken from me was the physical. And that, I do miss that. Being able to just roll up and she's cooking and we just chatted up a little bit and that's it. And then I could leave or whatever, either she needed me to take her somewhere. Those little things, yeah, I do miss that. My granny is a different story. That is different. And I grieved differently with her. The reason it is different is because when my granny died, and I mentioned this in my show, so many things were happening to me at once. I had found out my granny had died. A few weeks after that, I found out my favorite job that I've ever had in history. The company had closed, so I lost the job, even though they transferred me to a different company with the same owner, whatever. But it was a real estate job. Lost that. Then got hit with some more stuff. Then got hit with some more stuff. And it was just like for about a month and some change, it was bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And I was just like, okay. And I didn't have time to fully process that she was gone. On top of that, when I was processing things, I became angry because when she left, she didn't know who I was. And that's the other reason I was upset, because she had dementia and Alzheimer's. So before I had moved back to the West Coast, I would go and see her in the nursing home. and I would bring my laptop computer, and we would watch the Golden Girls together because I had Golden Girls on DVD, and we watched the Golden Girls together. And sometimes she would be able to place who I was, but she couldn't fully place who I was. And that will always stick with me because I couldn't say goodbye to her. Now my nanny, I wasn't worried about saying goodbye to my nanny because like I said, I was given way more than a lot of people get with their grandparents. So, like I said, I didn't feel like I lost anything with my nanny. With my granny and I were really close too. I would go to my granny's house. I would always have her laughing because I never have gas in my car. She always put gas in my car because she asked me, how much gas is in your car? And I say I have 1/8 of a tank, or either I have 1/12 of a tank. And she's like, what is 1/8 of a tank? What's 1/12 of a tank? I'm like, what do you mean? 1/8 of a tank is between the E and the 4th. And she's like, no, put gas in your car. We would go through those moments. And also, she would tell me stories about how she used to work in the cafeteria because she was the dietitian at the school she worked at a long time ago. She would tell me how she drove cross country in the Reverend's Cadillac and all types of other stuff. And there were tons of other stories that my granny told me throughout the years that I can't tell. I've been sworn to secrecy. Which I keep a lot of secrets. But that death, the way I grieved for my granny, the way I still somewhat grieve today because it still hurts today. I smile and think about the good times, but also I think about what I lost and how she left. And for those two individuals, those two women who were influential in my life, I grieved differently for both of them. And I have other people that have passed throughout my life where I have grieved differently. One of the individuals, I did an episode for him, a message for June. I didn't know that I would miss him as much as I did until after everything had happened. And even to this day, from time to time, at least once a week, once a week or once every 2 weeks minimum, I think about him. And I think about certain things. And I try not to get too wrapped up in that because, as I mentioned in one of my episodes, you're not a time traveler. And I know I'm not a time traveler, so I can't go back and rework history and make things fall a certain way, and things had to fall the way they had to fall. And he is gone now, but it still stings a little bit, even though thinking about him is bittersweet. It hurts, but also I smile when I think about him. And I could go down a laundry list of people that I have lost throughout my lifetime where I have grieved differently, probably for almost every single one, and haven't went to any funerals. Because like I said, don't do funerals. And I'm telling these stories and I'm doing this daily thought to let you know that people grieve differently. And if you have someone in your life that you're dealing with and someone passes away that you both know, don't assume that they don't care or it's not hitting them just because they don't show up or they don't say something or they don't send flowers or they don't do this or they don't do that or they don't react the way that you might expect them to react. Everyone processes information differently. because we are all individuals. So that's what this daily thought is about. Everyone grieves differently. Just like my parents are not going to be here forever. When they pass, and I wish I could keep them around for 100 more years, or 100 additional years, not more, because they hadn't hit 100 yet, but for 100 additional years on top of their current age, I know the likelihood of that is slim. Not impossible, because nothing is impossible. And I don't know what technological or medical advances will come out between now and a year, 5 years, 10 years from now. But based off of the knowledge that I have right now, it's very slim that they will receive 100 more years to their lives. When they pass, I know I will process it differently than my brothers will process it differently. And that's because we're all individuals. And that's what I'm asking people to learn to respect when it comes to grieving. Everyone grieves differently. And some people, they may not care. I'm not saying that, oh, well, they're grieving differently. They care, but they're just not showing it. I'm not a mind reader. I'm not a time traveler. I'm not a mind reader. I have intuition, but I'm not a mind reader. I can't see the exact thoughts of what someone thinks, and neither can you. So I'm not saying that if they're acting like they don't care, that, oh, well, they really care. For all I know, they may be like, to hell with them, because I don't know what that person's experience with that individual may have been. And that's another thing that plays a role with grieving. My experience with my granny, I know for a fact, is different from the experiences that the other grandchildren had, because I was my granny's favorite. And all the grandchildren knew it. Just like with my mother's father, my papa, my younger cousin, he was the favorite of his. So, and the experience can sometimes be different. And not saying that where if a favorite's involved, all the others are treated horribly. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the interactions can also play a role on how someone grieves. So there's a lot of things to take into account, but what it boils down to is that you don't know. You don't know. The only thing that you should know is that everyone grieves differently. So when someone passes, keep that in mind. And that's all I have for my daily thought. This pot is boiling with the chicken. And yeah, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. KIRWKC on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.com/KIRWKC. Swing by the page, give a like, all that other good stuff. And I already told you about YouTube Daily Motion. I think that's all I got. Everybody, for those who have been supporting the show, listening, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that jazzy stuff, I sincerely appreciate it. Even though I'm saying it in a rush manner, I mean it genuinely. And that is all I have. Until next time, be blessed.